In a Midsummer Night Dream suite, the guitar 3 part definitely has the most variety of things going on and the most chords for certain. So let's just talk through what's going on with some of these, starting here in the first movement. You open the entire suite with this little chordal thing. It sounds like this. And then it's the same thing, kind of the next 4 bars, except instead of what happens in bar 4, in measure 8, we get this. Kind of a resolution on the thing. So it's like an A phrase and a B phrase almost with a lot of repeated material. So how do we make this work? Number 1, in the right hand I'm just doing I and M for all the top notes, and my thumb is playing the 4th string the whole time. So get feeling really comfortable with that, plucking strings 3 and 2 with I and M, and strings 2 and 1 with I and M as well. Some things like that will help a lot with what the right hand has got going on here. And then as far as the left hand is concerned, we just have these groupings of chords. So in the first measure, we've got an A on the 3rd string, and a D on the 2nd string. That's our first chord. And then we have 2 open strings, an open G and an open B. That first chord again. And then again 2 open strings, open B and E this time. So we get this. Playing just the groupings of 2 notes. In measure 2, we get 1 new chord really. We get this one up here where I'm playing E on the 2nd string, the 5th fret, and A on the 1st string in the 5th fret. And I'm playing that with fingers 3 and 4. And then we go back to 2 open strings, that first chord, and again 2 open strings. Measure 3 is just like measure 1. And that goes for like measure 5 and measure 7 as well. And this little sequence, all of the odd number measures are the same thing. So if you learn that once, learn it really well, and it can transfer all the way through. Measure 4, we get this chord again, the E and the A. Then we get 2 open strings to let us shift, and then we get that same shape from E and A, but moved up to the 7th fret. So I'm just going to use my 3rd and 4th fingers there again until we get this. Lasts a little bit longer. Now in measure 8, we get 2 new chords, and these are both involved in a D major chord. So let's just find a D major chord really quick, and that's going to help us. It's going to be open 4th string, 2nd fret A on the 3rd string, 3rd fret D on the 2nd string, and then 2nd fret F sharp on the 1st string. And so if you think about it like this, we play the top 2 notes of that, then the open D string, open 2 strings, open D string again, and then the bottom 2 notes of that chord. So we sort of play the chord in 2 halves, and then we have those open strings in the middle. So we get this. That sounds really nice. And I really encourage you to think about it as moving back to this D major chord shape, especially if you're already familiar with that shape. The next thing that can be really tricky here hops in and measure 29. You take over this thing the guitar 1 initiates for us, this little thing right here. And there's a couple different ways to do this. The way that I'm liking to do it is the way that I just played it, to where everything's on the 2nd string. Go and look at the PDF that I've uploaded to see the exact fingerings that I'm using here. But it's all on the 2nd string, and what this allows us to do is move from that open B string really smoothly up to this high B that we're going to need to play. Other options could be things like starting in a higher position, and I don't love the tone of that. I think it's almost equally as complicated. And then another option that we would have would be making a larger jump there at the end of measure 29. When we play that E, playing that as an open string, and then playing the G that follows it on the 2nd string, finally jumping up to 5th position. So we have options. The way I'm doing it though, again, really slowly, is open, 2, 1, 4, a close my hand a little bit, so my first finger's gonna play the D, and then stretch out to the F sharp, bring my first finger up to the E, and now we're in 5th position. We can play G, F sharp, G, F sharp, B, F sharp, G, F sharp. It's really quite easy. We'll move on to the second movement. Throughout this movement, you have a bunch of different chords here. Let's just talk through where those are at, and then how to kind of coordinate those with your right hand. It's a little bit different here than we might normally do it. So the first 2 measures, you have 2 chords, and we're going to use these chords several times. So I highly recommend that you just sort of memorize these shapes. The first one is a D minor chord. You get this sound, and so that's open 4th string, 2nd fret A on the 3rd string, 3rd fret D on the 2nd string, and then 1st fret F natural on the 1st string. D minor. And then our next chord, and that's labeled in the music for you, and then the next chord is E7, and it's this chord. One of our 6-string chords, and we're going to get open 6th string, 2nd fret B on the 5th string, open 4th string, 1st fret G sharp on the 3rd string, and then an open 2nd and 1st string. Nice cowboy chord. And so those 2 chords in measures 1 and 2 specifically are going to sound like this together. So we'll get 1, 2. And so we'll kind of come back to this concept, but when we have these bigger chords here, the way that I am setting up my right hand is that I'm strumming with the back of my index nail, and I'm trying to use my finger to make most of that motion happen and leave my hand pretty static. Now, normally when I'm strumming with a pick, I let my hand move around quite a bit. In this case, I want my hand to stay static. That is so, it can kind of constantly be muting the strings. Notice that all of those D minor chords, and then as we get to like measure 4, we have E7 chords that need to be all strummed in the same direction, and they all need to be staccato. So for me, this action, where I'm strumming with my finger itself and then muting with the back of my hand, works really well. So I would practice it like this, and then start to add your left hand notes. And so I would use that for like measures 1 and 2, and then measures 4 and the first half of measure 5. And then we get into some new 3-note chords. And those chords are going to be chords like this one, chords like this one, and this one. So we'll walk through how to play those in just a second, but for the most part there, I'm not strumming. Notice that they're not notated to be strummed. There's not that little arrow in there. And so it's much easier just to play those 3-note ones with P, I, and M. That way we can just pluck and mute straight away. So I think that's a really good thing to do with the right hand there. Let's figure out where those chords are just really quickly. Take a look at the second half of measure 5. That's beats 3 and 4 in measure 5. And we're going to get this little D minor chord. You don't necessarily have to memorize the shape names, but it's good to label them. And so we've got 5th fret A on the 1st string, 6th fret F natural on the 2nd string, and then 7th fret D on the 3rd string. There. And then in measure 6, we come up and we're going to bar the top 3 strings and the 10th fret. Notice the little X above that chord. That's what that means there. So just those 3 notes there at the 10th fret, that's the chord. And in that sequence, almost every time we get here, we get this little melodic thing where we just play 10, 10, 12, 10, or D, D, E, D on the 1st string. One more time. And then, very often we move back down to the 8th fret, and we're going to keep that bar exactly the same. We just slide it down to the 8th fret. And for this chord, we need to add our 2nd finger to the 9th fret on the 3rd string so that we get this sound. This is a little C major chord. Again, I'm barring the first 3 strings here at the 8th fret, and then my 2nd finger is fretting the 9th fret. So I get E, G, C. So starting in measure 6, going into measure 7 really encapsulates what happens here. We'll do that in just a second. Measure 8 adds one new chord, so I want to show you that. Right after this chord in measure 8, we come up to bar on the 9th fret. So we move that bar from the 8th to the 9th fret, and then we fret with our pinky on the 12th fret. So we get 9, 9, 12, or E, G sharp, E. And so it sounds like this, which is really nice. So really slowly, I'm going to play starting in measure 6, all the way through 7, all the way through 8, and I'll tell you the position numbers that I'm in each time. Here we go. Starting in 6, 3, and 4, and position 10, position 8, position 5. Here's measure 8, position 10, position 8, position 9, and then we come back to an A minor chord. Some more cowboy chords there. Okay, so moving on to movement 3. Guitar 3 again is really holding things down in a big way. And we have some sort of interesting chords here. First, straight away in the first measure, let's find this chord really quickly. So we've got 4th fret F sharp on the 4th string. We've got 5th fret C on the 3rd string. We've got an open 2nd string, and then we're going to play an open 5th string as well. So it sounds like this. Then we slide back here, and we get 2nd fret E on the 4th string, 2nd fret A on the 3rd string, that same open B string, and we're going to play 4th fret G sharp on the 1st string with our pinky. This is here in measure 2, and we get this sound. So once we get to measure 3, we go back to that first chord. Rhythm's a little bit different, but it's the same chord. Now in measure 4, we come to the same chord that we had in measure 2, but we need to play it with our 2nd and 3rd fingers in order to fret that F sharp, the F natural, on the 1st fret of the 1st string. So we get this. So let's hear those 4 measures together really slowly. 1, 2, 3. Measure 1. Measure 2. Measure 3. 2, 3. Measure 4. F natural there. Now measure 5, super easy. Just lift up your index finger and a big strum. And then the top 4 strings again. Still left hand staying static. For measure 5, we're going to add 1st fret F natural on the 6th string. Fun sound. And then we're going to play those top 4 notes again. In the 4th movement, things cool out a little bit, but still, we're playing some funky chords. In measure 1 and measure 2, we have the same chord here. We just have finally, kind of really simply, A sharp, 5th string, 1st fret, and then this F on the 4th string and the 3rd fret. We get this sound. Kind of sounds like a ribbit, like a frog, okay? Now, that is going to be our chord until we get to measure 11. In measure 11, super similar, but instead of the F, we're going to play an F sharp. So just 1 fret higher. Now measure 13, 14, 15, and 16, we just kind of go back and forth. So pay close attention to which one's a natural, which one's a sharp. And listen through the recordings. There's recordings of this, right? So go listen to the recordings, and that'll help that a lot too. But here's 13. It should sound like this. Kind of back and forth like that. Now, at the second ending, we just get this super simple. It looks a little bit odd on the paper, but a really simple slide here where we just take this shape, A sharp and F sharp, and we slide up to B and G really quick. We do that twice. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and then we just get that first chord again. So just practice this really slowly and pay close attention to what's a natural, what's a sharp, and try to keep your arm relaxed. It can be really easy when we're playing down in the first position for a long time to keep your arm up like this, but do your best to just kind of keep things relaxed. That'll help going from third movement into fourth movement and then still having good energy to play the fifth movement, especially with all these chords. The fifth movement. Fifth movement's got some really fun stuff in it here. So first off, what happens in the first measure? Again, the third guitar part is going to start us off. And all you're going to do is you're going to take your left hand and just lightly touch all 6 strings and use at least 2 fingers here. I typically just use all 4. And we're going to strum, like imagine that you're holding a pick. So just put your index finger and your thumb together. And what we want is we want to hear the nail from both fingers, okay? The rhythm here, the rhythm for quite a while is 1, a 2, and 1, a 2, and. So it's going to sound like this. Ready, go. And that down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up strumming pattern is totally appropriate, and it's exactly what's written in the score here. Now, if we move forward, finally in measure 25, we get some chords. And not only do we get some chords, we get a new rhythm and kind of a new technique. Okay, so here's the first chord. Let's find that together. It sounds like this. It's like an E9 chord, but we have an open 6th string, 2nd fret B on the 5th string, 2nd fret E on the 4th string, open 3rd string, 3rd fret D, which I'm playing with my pinky right here, on the 2nd string, and then 1st string open. Sounds like this again. So E minor 9 actually. And so this chord is going to hang out for several measures. Let's see when it goes away. It finally goes away in measure 40. So thankfully, like, our left hand doesn't have to move around too much. Now in the right hand, we have a couple of things here. Number one, we're strumming all the way through. Again, kind of like your hand is holding a pick. We want to hear the nail. Okay, so we have in measure 25, we have 1 and down, up. Notice the little arrows in there. And then we have like a cross, and it says percussion with right hand thumb near fingerboard on all strings. And what we want is this like kind of smacked percussive sound. And so we get this. So take your thumb and try to make it kind of wide so it hits a couple of strings. And we get this sound. And then right after that, I'm going to up strum with my thumb again. Okay, so we've got down, up, smack, up, down, up, smack, up, down, up, smack, up, down, up. And a little bit quicker, it sounds like this. It makes a really nice groove, so try to feel the groove. Now, this is your groove for quite a while. You've got some like normal written notes when we get to measure 41, pretty easy. And then we go back to that material from the beginning, and then in measure 57, we get some new chords. So it's the same thing that's was happening in measure 25, but let's just find those new chords. So our chord in measure 57 is going to be this chord right here. Nice sound. And so we've got an open 5th string, 2nd fret E on the 4th string, 4th fret B on the 3rd string, 1st fret C on the 2nd string, and then an open A. So again, it sounds like this. Open, 2, 4, 1, open. And that's going to hang out for a while and get the same sort of treatment like we were playing in 25. A nice groove. Now, in measure 65, we get a new chord. This one's even easier. Open 4th string, open 3rd string, 3rd fret D on the 2nd string, and then 3rd fret G on the 1st string. Just like that. And so same treatment. Now I am using my middle finger. You could use your index finger, it doesn't really matter. But I am using my middle finger to just lightly touch the 5th and 6th strings so that they don't sound. So they're muted. So I get this sound instead of this sound. Two very different sounds, right? So do your best to mute with the left hand there as well. And then you get the thing from the beginning right at the end again, and then you're out. You're done. You're safe. It's over.